really wanted to make an impression on you, so I went to ask all my really professional friends for advice before I took on this momentous, enormous task. So I went up to Spike Lee, and I asked him for advice, and he says to me, John, don't be intimidated by these brilliant students, and don't try to be charming or intellectual or funny. Just be yourself. I was like, thanks, Spike. But that was the most backhanded compliment I've ever received. So then I went over to my manager, who's a liar and a thief, but he means well. And he says to me, you know, a man after 50, John, shouldn't speak longer than he can make love. So I'm going to be quick. Thanks for applauding for that. Look, I know you just graduated, and if you're anything like me, most of you are scared and have no clue what you're going to do. So I'm going to share with you a little wisdom that might help you enter the world you're entering and how you're going to succeed in it, drawing from my own personal life. Now, I wasn't always as successful as I am now because I was raised without much, and I was ashamed because we were poor. We were so poor that when my friends would come over, I'd pretend we'd been burglarized. I would be like, oh snap, yo, all our stuff is gone, we must have got robbed. And my friends would be like, yo, damn, John, they really cleaned you out. And the stuff they didn't take, they broke. You gotta call the police. So seriously, we were so underprivileged that I never believed in Jesus or Superman because I knew no white guys dressed like either of them was ever going to come into my hood and save me.
It's true.
What? And my brother and I, we didn't have much, but our immigrant parents pushed us because we were going to be the Brown Dream Team. And
woo!
Yeah. So my parents would make us earn all our Christmas presents. We had to read the encyclopedia from A to Z. You probably don't even know what an encyclopedia is either. It's these really large books from the past century that contain all the knowledge of the universe. And so my parents would tell us that Santa wouldn't come if we didn't finish up to Zulu or whatever the letter was, and that we'd be an embarrassment to the family. So I remember trying to finish up to the A's in my encyclopedia, and I got into a fight with my friend Charlie because he dissed me. And I was like, yo, Charlie, my altruistic actions alternatively don't always accelerate our alliances. Obviously, I quit in the A's. You see, my hood was rough. You know, I got into a lot of fights. Or a correction, I mean, I got beat up a lot. Because we were the first Latin family in our neighborhood. We were like pioneers. Pioneers of reverse gentrification. And we set up a whole white flight in Queens. That's white people running away from the hood and getting the F out. And I mean, all the white peoples were running away. But they all beat me up before they left. So I realized early on that being funny kept me from getting a beat down in the street. So I do all my funny voices so that the neighborhood bully wouldn't kick my ass. Literally, if I made him laugh, I wouldn't get a black eye on my way to school. But that didn't stop me from becoming a punk either, and my parents had to intervene on my own behalf to save me many times, because that immigrant work ethic is a mofo. It's all about relentlessly improving and overachieving, and my pops would be like, I must be going through a terrible slump. I only got 5 jobs this week. How many jobs did you get, Mr. Winston? And Mr. Winston was Jamaican because Jamaican dad's work ethic is even more crazy intense than dad's ethic.
Woo!
That's right. And they would be like, you must be the procrastinating, lazy one in your family, Mr. Griswold. Because, man, me have 7 businesses, I drive a taxi and sell jerk chicken out of me trunk. And I'm teaching myself Chinese in my sleep. Body boo blood clot, tell me something I don't want. But it was with the help of my mentors, my math teacher in particular, Mr. Zufa, who said to me, Mr. Lasquizamo, Mr. Lasquizamo, if they can make penicillin out of moldy bread, they can make something out of you. And Mr. Zufa jump-started me to studying acting, and I found my first acting teacher in the Yellow Pages.
All right.
That's Google to y'all. And I paid for it, my acting classes, my Kentucky Fried Chicken money. That's KFC to you. And I was the king of minimum wage, man. I used my earnings to put myself through acting school. And my acting teacher, Sylvia Lee, who had like 3 hairs on top of her head and looked like Tweety Bird but sounded like Katharine Hepburn. And I would bounce into her school and I'd be like, yo, Miss Lady, this place is mad cool. You must be rich and whatnot, right? Yo, that's what's up, lady. You know, you and me gonna rock this jam, and then the homies gonna know what time it is. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? And Sylvia was shocked at my accent, and she was like, your accent is so like a speech impediment. And I was like, nah, lady, I'm just ghetto. And she was like, do people really speak like that? How do you understand one another? Because that's how I used to sound back then. How I sound now is after years and years of professional help. Years of tongue twisters and speech classes. Years of going the lips, the teeth, the tip of the tongue, the lips, the teeth, the tip of the tongue. And, but yo, she got me reading at 17, man. I became a play reading addict. I almost read every play ever written. And this was my I found myself moment. The proverbial coin dropped in. It was my aha moment.
Woo!
And so at 19, I told my father that I was going to be an actor. And my pops was like, oh, no, you don't. No. We didn't come to this country for you to be worse than us. And that was all I needed. That was my impetus. Because I knew even then that whatever my father said to do, I should do the opposite. So I became an artist, because artists can express what others aren't allowed. Certainly not in my home. And I followed my dream against all odds. Because back in the 90s, agnostic, short Latin guys didn't get cast much. And when they did hire me, it was always drug dealers, criminals, maids, you know, servicing America in the periphery either way. And my gramp, seeing me struggle, came to me. He was like, mijo, only white Latinos make it to Telemundo, papito. Stay out of the sun, mijito. Walk on the shaded side of the street. Don't even eat dark food, papito. And even my agent would advise me. He'd be like, John, tell them that you're Italian. Tell them that you're Black Irish. Change your name for Christ's sakes. Liquid Zamo is a mouthful and it's too ethnic, you know what I mean? So for a while, I was the palest albino Latino in New York City. And then I made the big mistake on my first big movie, and I laid out in the sun without sunscreen, and I became a nice shade of Dominican.
All right.
And I got demoted. And that was it for me. My gramps was right, and so was William Blake, the poet who said, I must create my own system or else be enslaved by another's. If you don't see what you want, you have to make it yourself.
Yeah. Woo!
So I started writing because I got tired of playing the Hollywood game. I didn't want the gatekeepers being the ones deciding my future with their invisible glass ceilings, unspoken quotas, and cheap tokenism, thinking they were doing me a favor by casting me, because by then I had had enough of being pigeonholed, stereotyped, villainized, demonized, drugified, murderized, hoodlumized, Carlitos wayified. But what I had not been was stoppified. Because I didn't start by wanting fame, money, or celebrity. I just wanted to be good at something. To find my niche. I wanted to act, man. I wanted to act anywhere, anytime, anyhow. And so I said yes to everything. So I could act, so I could call myself an actor. And at the beginning, I wasn't very good either. But I worked hard on it, and eventually I became so damn good, they could not hire me because of my ethnicity.
Amen.
And if they didn't hire me, they had to deal with their own conscience, and that was good enough for me. Good enough to finally be me. Good enough for me became my mantra. I didn't want to be other-directed, relying on the outside world that didn't accept me for my validation. And ever since this epiphany, it's made me want to wake up every morning with pep in my step. I was ready to take on the world, yo!
Yeah.
Even though the world wasn't ready for me. But I flipped it. And you are graduating now in a great era. I wish I was born right now. With the democratization of the digital age, everyone can be an entrepreneur and a star if you strike a chord with the right audience. And it's a more diverse working place. You know, they say the world is changing, but I say it's just catching up. Because this has always been a diverse world. It just wasn't an inclusive one. And America, well, this great country of ours, was cheating itself out of very important human resources. Our minorities, our women, our youth.
Yes.
You are graduating now in the time of hashtag Me Too, hashtag Black Lives Matter, hashtag Oscars So White, hashtag National School Walkout. Hashtag Immigrants Make America Great.
Yeah.
What an amazing time. Because you are part of the conversation. Hell, you are the conversation. And we are finally learning respect and decency, not just in the public sector, but in private places as well. But let's not kid ourselves, because it's also the era of Russian bots meddling in our elections, sabotaging our democracy. And because of social media, it's also the era of anonymous bullying and tribalism caused by propaganda. But it's also the era of the liberal and the progressive and the activist and the woke Republican. We are all finally so politicized. And your great generation, your generation Z is the most politicized since the 60s. Yo, I didn't even know what a midterm election was till this year. In my 50 years, I have never voted in a midterm election, and shame on me. Shame on my generation for being asleep at the wheel. And you are also so lucky to have real live superheroes like those kids in Parkland, Emma Gonzalez, David Anthony Borges. That beautiful black kid who shielded his Latino fellow student. They've taken to the streets and they're holding our lawmakers accountable.
Yeah.
This is your generation. This era is also great because a black superhero movie is the 4th largest movie in the world.
Yes! Number 3, actually.
An all-Latino and black founding fathers play called Hamilton is the biggest hit in Broadway history. And not just because they star people of color, but because Black Panther and Hamilton are groundbreaking. I stand on some strong, broad shoulders of those who came before me, people who made it possible for me to get here. Not my Uber driver, although he was very cool. But I'm talking about my mentors, my teachers, my directors, people who took a risk breaking the barriers and getting me past the gatekeepers so I could speak to you today. Unshakable shoulders, like Sylvia Mendez, who in the 1940s fought against school segregation in the courts, paving the way for Brown versus Board of Education.
Yes.
Cesar Chavez, union leader and activist who in the 60s coined the phrase, "Yes, we can."
Yes.
And of course, Rita Moreno, Desi Arnaz, Freddie Prinze, Lin-Manuel Miranda, Carlos Fuentes, Carlos Santana.
All right.
The poets, Miguel Pinheiro, Joan Baez. The rappers, Cypress Hill and Pitbull. The graffiti artists. And civil rights activists like the Brown Berets and the Young Lords in the 60s. But make no mistake, this isn't an us versus them argument based on my ethnicity. Your generation is entering an era where we are becoming a country that has no love for Hispanics, that has no love for most immigrants who are not white. Immigrants like my mom and dad who made this country better because immigrants always have and always will.
Amen.
Immigrants will always make this country great, and they will always work hard. In fact, they have to work harder just to prove themselves. We're living in a country that is trying to ban other immigrants from certain Middle Eastern countries, such as Syria as well.
Yep.
Jerry Seinfeld's grandfather came to us from Syria. Steve Jobs, who founded Apple Computer, had a Muslim father named Abdul Fattah, who was a Syrian immigrant. You think we would let a guy named Abdul Fattah into the U.S. right now? But if there's no Abdul coming to the U.S., then there's no Steve Jobs. Therefore, there's no personal computers. If Jerry Seinfeld's grandfather doesn't come to the U.S., then there's nothing. There's no soup for you. Okay? Well, yeah, you know what I mean. Without Syrian immigrants, you wouldn't be, some of you back there be checking your iPhones for, I'm making an important point, but. Hey, and did you know that in 1793, George Washington said, "We have abundant reason to rejoice that's my founding father's voice, that in this land the light of truth and reason has triumphed over the power of bigotry and superstition. In this enlightened age, in this land of equal liberty, it is our boast that a man's religious tenets will not forfeit the protection of the laws." Basically, if George Washington were alive today, he'd denounce these extremist views against Muslims, Latinos, and undocumented immigrants.
Amen.
And why is bigotry so un-American? Because it's against our Constitution. And why come after people of color? And why does Trump hate people who are black or brown when he himself is orange? Explain this to me. It's a mystery. And with Stephen Hawking dead, I guess it'll remain unsolved. So all this to say, vote or you can't complain.
Amen.
Just like I figured out a way to work within the Hollywood system, be creative, be proactive, and be self-empowered. Get your friends and your family to register to vote. Your tía, your abuela, tu primo, el fulanito tal cual, el jodón del vecino chismoso.
Yeah.
Everybody.
And vote. And not just in the 2020 presidential election, but in these midterm elections this November. November 8th might prove to be the most important election of our lifetime. So spread the word.
Woo!
Not just here, but all over this great country of ours. Be heard. That's right. It's our right. It's our country too. All right. So in conclusion, all I can say to you is however difficult life may seem, there is always something you can do and succeed at.
Amen.
If I could offer you only one tip for the future, it would be to keep reading. The long-term benefits of reading have been proven by scientists, whereas the rest of my advice that I've been going on about has no basis more reliable than my own subjective experience. But read to learn what you don't know, not to reinforce what you already believe in. Read to grow,
Yeah.
and read to change. Voltaire said, "The unexamined life is not worth living." He also said some other stuff, but I got to be honest with you, I couldn't make it through Candide. But I'm sure it's good. Thankfully, it's not going to be on the test. Hey, none of this shit is going to be on the test. You're graduating. There are no more tests. But before I go, and before you go off to your new lives, I want to dispense a little more advice to you, something that I wish had been given to me. Enjoy the power and freedom of your youth. Nah, never mind. You won't understand the power and freedom of your youth until it's long gone and faded. But try to enjoy it now. Trust me, because in 20 years, you're going to look back at photos of yourself and be like, wow, I was cool. But what was up with my hair? What was I wearing? And why was I thinking wanted to be married so young and have... Never mind, I'm sorry. I was talking about myself again. But I'm here to talk to
I
you
guess that's
because you are the future and you are the change I believe in. In a way you can't grasp how much possibility lies before you. You can't imagine how cool you really are right now. And trust me, you're not as goofy or weird or off as you might imagine yourself to be. And don't worry about the future, or worry about the future. Worrying is as effective as trying to solve calculus by biting your nails. The real troubles in your life are apt to be the things that never crossed your mind, the kind of things that blindside you at 4 p.m. on some idle Sunday afternoon, the things you have zero control over, like death and like the lives of others. But you have control over yourself.
Amen.
So do one thing every day that scares you. Sign up for acting. Sing, dance, box. Ask that girl out. Floss. Be kind, eat right. Don't waste your time on petty jealousy or envy, because sometimes you're ahead and sometimes you're behind. The race is long, and in the end it's only really with yourself anyway. This is your life, so find a passion and pursue it. Fall in love, man. Dream big. Dream one size too big.
Yeah.
Drink wine.
Woo!
Eat great food. Spend quality time with your good friends and tell stories. Reminisce about the good old days. But look with optimism to the future always. Travel often. Learn more. Be creative. Spend time with people you admire. Seize opportunities when they reveal themselves, yo. Love with all your heart. Never, never, ever give up. Do what you love. Be true to who you are. Make time to enjoy the simple things in life. Spend time with your family.
Yeah.
Forgive even when it's hard. Smile often. Be grateful. Be the change you wish to see in the world. Don't count the minutes, count the laughs. Trust in yourself. Be thankful. Be nice to everybody. Be happy. Live for today. And above all, make every moment count. And if you take anything away from what I've been saying, I hope it's this. Never give up. You only fail when you stop trying. So set a goal that makes you jump out of bed every single morning. And when you start seeing your worth, you'll find it hard to stay around people who don't.
Amen.
Now, I didn't get past the A's in my encyclopedia back when I was a kid, and I got up to Aztec, and I learned something really interesting. At the center of Aztec philosophy exists Teotlal, which means a single, dynamic, eternally self-generating sacred force.
Amen.
It means that we are all the same, and all things are equal, and we are one. I want to share also an old Incan proverb that was passed on to me by my grandmother, who said to me, "If you kiss the llama, John, it won't spit at you." Thank you, and good luck.